I don't know if we actually will know if Blake Lively shows up to our deposition. I don't know if we will get like ding, ding, ding. Blake Lively showed up to our deposition today, unless Bryan Freedman sends us a little bit of a bat signal. There's no way to know. However, and he may, Bryan Freedman likes to talk to the media and he likes to kind of share stuff with us. But because I did get a note from someone who works in the legal field that works alongside some people that are in this space, and that's the most I can say about that, says my prediction. This is an email. My prediction. Ain't going to be no deposition. This is the word for word from the email. I have years of observing depositions, and the ones that never were due to cowardice. Cowardice. I think she will have a dog ate my homework moment to rival no other. Here's my thought. Pants on Fire will not show. One of the Deadpool kids will be sick. A coke snorting Blake's mother, former harassment victim, will have a chest pain and proceed to the ER with Leslie Sloan, or Ryan will be shitting himself collectively with Hugh Jackman over the impending loss of their respective careers and or reputations. It's all coming down the proverbial pike. I feel it, sister, just like I feel Karen Reed dancing on Trooper Proctor's career grave. Now that is a good little blind item right there, huh? Isn't that interesting? This is someone that worked in the legal field for someone very, 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 all I can say is someone that is in this case, okay? Someone that is very in this case. They do not believe that Blake Lively will show up to this deposition. Now, I don't know what the rules are around depositions. I don't know if you can just choose not to go. It's not like being called to a witness as a witness to a trial. I imagine that you would want to be, if you were deposed, you'd want to go to your deposition, because I would imagine not going is some sort of in my opinion, some sort of doesn't it kind of show guilt? Like a weird, I don't know, like almost if you don't show, it's like I have something to hide, right? But if you show, it's like I have nothing to hide. I'm here. I am an active participant in this case. This man SH'd me and I want to be here. I want to be part of this case. I have nothing to hide and I am here. Hands up, grill me. Nothing to hide. It's the people that are like dodging, shifting under obstacle course. Can't find me. Those are the people. Those are the ones that I feel like are the guilty parties, right? The ones that are never easy to pin down. Nancy says, you must be deposed. They can't go forward without it. Huh. Interesting. So I think, and I don't think we will know if she's deposed. Honestly, I really don't know if we will know. There's no way to know, because I think that, and she has a long runway too. Also, that's another thing. She doesn't, it's not today or now or never. Her attorneys can reschedule, she can push, she can change. I mean, I have a feeling she's a very flaky type of personality. She will wait. I agree with Michelle, who I see here. She says she'll wait to see what Justin submits today. She'll push it off. MC High Life says that's why Bryan Freedman says if she shows up on the Megyn Kelly show, he doesn't think she would. That is really interesting. I think, yeah, exactly. Jack says it definitely shows you're hiding something. Nancy says her lawyer said she was looking forward to it. Are they liars too? Of course. I think that the lawyers are definitely going to always try to present some sort of like bravery from Blake Lively. She has nothing to hide. She is, of course, looking forward to this trial. She is looking forward to the deposition. She wants justice for herself. She wants to show the world how strong she is, which reminds me, actually, because I want to talk about one other story about Blake Lively that I didn't get to last week. A few other content creators have talked about this, but I didn't. So I want to make sure my audience that isn't really watching a lot of other things that, are paying attention to this. Just before I forget, today is definitely the day that we will and should hear back from Bryan Freedman, because today is the deadline for the amended filing, which is the 23rd. June 23rd is the deadline for Bryan Freedman and Justin Baldoni's amended filing, which is the case of, I think it's 4 things that they can come back with, I can't think of the word, something that intertocial, whatever, the contract and all of the different things. It's not the defamation. It's not the juicy stuff that we really wanted, but it's still some good stuff that they can come back with. And, oh my God. Oh my God. I just got a text message from my son who's at his first day of film camp. Sorry, this is like a mom moment. If you know what I'm talking about, if you have an anxious kid and you send them off to the first day of camp at a new place where they have no friends and they're nervous and you're nervous, and he was at a film camp, I could cry because I had so much anxiety all day. And in the middle of the start of this podcast, I just got a text right now and he goes, so ... And then he goes, I made a friend. I feel like I could cry. That's just like a side note. Sorry, I could cry. Oh my God, that just makes me so happy. Tortious interference. Yeah, every time I see tortious interference, I think we're talking about turtles. So like, I'm just not the legal person. Thank you, Maddie. She says, remember to click like reminder. Thank you so much. Yeah, tortious interference. I have no idea. It's something about contracts and all of these things. I just can't wait to see what he actually says and what it says. But I want to remind you guys, in case you didn't see this, there is some very interesting finding that actually I'm going to credit Perez Hilton. Perez Hilton came up with this one find, which is shocking that none of us found it or saw this. And it came out on December 23rd, which, if you remember, her complaint came out on December 21st. The New York Times article was December 21st, which I want to say was a Friday. It was a Friday. And then I'm pretty sure, or a Saturday, I don't even know. And December 23rd was this NPR article. And I'm sure some of you guys know about it. If you don't, just stick around and I will get through this really fast. But this NPR article came out and it's like a very small, well, I don't even know. They have a written version, but NPR has, it's an audio program. This interviewer, his name is Ari Shapiro, interviews Megan Twohey. 7 minutes long, 5 minutes long. It's very short. And what they're doing is they're talking to Megan Twohey and just kind of covering the case very fast. And remember, at this moment, the world, including myself, yours truly, is convinced that Justin Baldoni is a monster. Okay? Because if you guys remember, and you'll see it in the It Ends with Justice documentary trailer that was just released by Popcorn Planet, I was a victim of the Blake Lively CRD complaint believer. So I also believed that he was a monster. And I was on the 23rd, I was in Vegas. I totally missed this. I drove to Vegas with my family for Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever it was that week. And I remember thinking to myself, like, Justin Baldoni is such a monster. I totally fell for it. And I remember seeing paparazzi pictures of him walking out of, I don't know where he was walking out of, maybe his attorney's office with his wife. He had just lost his agent. He had lost everything. And I was like, wow, what a fall from grace. Well, this was the moment. And this was when this interview comes out. Now, if you go to this interview, there's a written version and then there's the audio version. But there's something so telling in this written version and this audio version. And I just want you to see this one part. Of course, like what they're talking about is very basic. It's very kind of, everything that you kind of know. But um but the most important part about it is Ari Shapiro asks Megan Toohey one part, and let me just find it very specifically, and asks let me find it. Okay. Asks, and it's not just the mechanics of how this machine operates, but also that it sprang from an allegation of sexual harassment and is entirely grounded in a gender imbalance on set, Blake Lively alleges. And then Megan Toohey says something very important. Yes, that's exactly right. And she told me, like, listen, this was actually not the worst that I have experienced in Hollywood. I've actually experienced far worse misconduct. I spoke up because I wanted to address it, and I thought that I had. I never had any intentions of discussing this or going public with my accusations. And so to watch what happened next and to experience what she now is alleging was this complete campaign of retaliation felt in many ways much more sinister than the underlying misconduct. Okay, why is that a big deal? Why is that a big deal? Well, in that one statement, not only do we find out that Blake Lively has experienced, in her own words, worse misconduct and worse sexual harassment, allegedly, according to Blake Lively, on sets than she experienced by Justin Baldoni in that one moment or in this movie. But she's also explaining that she would have never made it public. She would have never gone after him legally had she not experienced this so-called smear campaign. The smear campaign that is still not confirmed, that is possibly not even a real thing. So she literally sued him on some potentially fake smear campaign. And the most important thing here is that she said, Megan Toohey says, yes, and Blake told me that. Why is that important? Because Megan Toohey is the author of the article that is writing the whole "we can bury her," the ultimate smear machine, or whatever that article was written about, the CRD, right? Why is that a big deal? Because the whole premise of the the New York Times article, is that it was written based solely on the CRD complaint and not a personal interview with Blake Lively, that she was not a source of anything, that they took a legal document and wrote an article. But she's saying, by her own confirmation, by her own words, she is saying, I spoke to Blake. Blake and I spoke. Blake is my source. I interviewed Blake. This is 2 days after the interview. That changes everything. Blake Lively went to the New York Times and spoke to them and gave them information. Well, all of a sudden now it changes. Now it's not just a reporting on a legal document. Now it feels like a little bit more like a hit piece, no? I think that Bryan Freedman should be able to appeal the New York Times dismissal in some capacity. Thank you so much, Crystal. Love you. I listen on Apple every day. You had me committed to the Karen Reed case, my first live. Thanks, Crystal. Welcome. You're a virgin. I hope I give you a good live. Appreciate you. Like, what in the absolute F is happening here? And Megan Toohey says this so confidently because she had absolutely no idea what was to come. She had no idea. They were so walking on They were walking on clouds, these women, during this interview, during this time. They literally thought in these moments that nothing was going to come at them. They were walking. Well, she told me. And I want to say there's a few other moments in this interview that is so absolutely disgusting and so gross, because I was listening to it, so I don't even know where it was. Um, oh yeah, Ari Shapiro says, and I wonder if I listen to it, if you can hear it. If I play it, can you hear it?
The movie It Ends With Us tells the story of a complicated romance between two characters played by Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. He also directed the film. New allegations suggest that what happened behind the scenes was
Someone
as
just put in the
dramatic as a
comments, and I'll
Hollywood
tell you.
movie.
And
The New York Times
I'll
obtained a
press play
complaint
or pause.
where Lively accuses Baldoni of sexual harassment and retaliation. And the filing includes excerpts from thousands of pages of text messages and emails documenting what the Times called.
He felt like that wasn't enough, and he was explicit about wanting more. And so she, in turn, brought in another person, and collectively they put in motion a strategy that involved not just kind of interfacing with the traditional press, seeking to kind of get favorable coverage of him and negative coverage of her, but to actually what appears to be to manipulate the internet, to manipulate social media. And they talk about starting threads online and doing other things to basically shift the narrative and what people were consuming on the internet.
There is one exchange where, and I am paraphrasing here, Baldoni says, "I need you to be more aggressive." And she says, "Well, I can't put everything in writing that we're going to do."
Misconduct that she made during the shooting of the film, but they have denied that they do negative information that she was.
An award just this month for being an ally to women.
Listen to this part, you guys.
It's important to know that she was planting and spreading, but she denies that she did anything or that she or any of her representatives did anything along those lines.
And this upcoming part talks about Justin Baldoni receiving the award and getting it taken away.
Ally to women.
It's important to know that Justin Baldoni and to some extent his, the producer of this film, the lead producer, Jamie Heath, have in recent years kind of gone to great lengths to present themselves as allies to women in the Me Too era. And so, there was, and prior to all of this coming out, there was so much evidence that the smear campaign had actually done real damage to Miss Lively, that she had suffered the biggest hit to her reputation. Like the online conversation about her had undergone like a drastic transformation as this campaign was put in motion. And, he, by many measures, basically escaped without any harm to his own reputation. And I think that the award that he won was a classic example of that. Now, obviously, the tide is shifting. And, since we published our story on Saturday, he has been released from the talent agency, WME, that represented him.
Big picture. This is about much more than just.
And that sounded like it got cut and edited. She's so proud of herself. And obviously the tide has shifted. I mean, since we released this article, like he has been, released from his agency, and he got the award rescinded, and this and this and that. Like, look what we did. Look how we shifted look how we took down the man. Ew. I despise her. Despise this Megan Twohey. She's honestly so dangerous. The fact that she got in this mess and did this with Blake Lively knowingly, like without checking her sources, without doing the research, with just wanting to, like, she was like salivating over taking down another man without doing the research. It's so dangerous. And she also goes, she constantly is sniffing. What does that mean? Is there an issue there? Why is she constantly sniffing? I don't know. There's a sniff issue. She has allergies. Interesting. Just saying. Allergies are Jack's Taylorgies. If you know what I'm saying. She has Jack's Taylorgies. That's the new word. It's Jack's Taylorgies. If you know who Jax Taylor is, you're going to know. Oh, God, what a depressing situation. Wow. 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 Anyway, I can't wait to see what happens for the rest of the day. We'll have